Come on up. Second floor to the right. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidyadravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Well, who came in?
My name is Jose. It's the first time I come.
Welcome, welcome. Let's go around at least here in the living room and share our names so everybody can be familiar. I'm Jim.
I'm Kirsten.
My name is Mike.
Diane.
Santosh. Vinayak.
And how did you find us, Anita?
Mida.
So we start promptly at 7:30 with 20 minutes of meditation.
6:30.
6:30. Oops. So next time I'm ready to receive people at 7. So you were more than welcome
6.
to come early. 6.
Yeah.
All right. I'm
Okay. You're on Thursday night.
Yes, I'm on other nights. All right. So are you familiar with this text, the Bhagavad Gita, Jose?
A little bit.
All right. Well, we are now in the 2nd chapter. And does anyone remember what verse we're on?
Number 23.
Number 23. And I think we've shifted on to the topic of karma yoga, if I'm correct.
I think we finished 23.
Read it in the English and I'll tell you.
Weapons cleave it not,
Yes,
fire
we did.
burns it not. Yeah,
Correct.
We did that.
So let's do number 24. And so he's going to chant it in Sanskrit for us. I'm legally blind, so I can no longer read. Would you be more comfortable in a chair, Jose?
I'm okay here.
Because you can just grab one of the dining room chairs and bring it over there if you want. It's up to you.
I'm good.
All right. You help us out, Vinayak?
Achedyo yama dahyo yam akledyo shosya evacha nitya sarvagataha sthanur chaleyam sanatanaha. This self cannot be cut, nor burned, nor moistened, nor dried up. It is eternal, all-pervading, stable, immovable, and ancient.
So again, we're talking about what is the nature of the real self. And what we've implied here is a meditation called Drishya Viveka, discrimination between the self and the not self, between the subject and all the objects, between the seer and the seen. So let's go through it briefly again so that we understand. So when we talk about the self, the subject, it means you. Who sees the phone? You do. That's yourself. So it isn't that you're going to get another self, a higher self, or a better self. My problem is I've superimposed on that direct experience all sorts of ideas. It's like hypnotism. Someone goes to Las Vegas and sees a stage show of a hypnotist and goes on stage and they're hypnotized into thinking that they're a chicken and they run around the stage going, blah, 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 blah. We know that they're not really a chicken. Sure believe it till they're brought out of the trance. Gosh, that was so weird. I thought I was a chicken. So you and I confuse in the mind the self with the non-self. So, subject-object discrimination. Everybody see the phone? You are not a phone. You're the one who sees the phone. Can you hear the traffic outside? You are not the traffic. You're the one who hears the traffic. Can you smell the incense fragrance? You are not the fragrance. You're the one who knows the fragrance. You go through all the five senses. You have a subject-object relationship with everything in the world of name and form. Now let's go one level more subtle, to the level of the body itself. When you were a child, you had a little body. You went through adolescence and the body changed again. You became an adult, body has changed again. Mike and I are getting up there. Body changes again. But have not you known the changes in the body? You are not the body. You are the knower of the body. Take a deep breath. Feel the breath in the body. Do you not know the breath in the body? There's that same subject-object relationship, just like the phone or the traffic or the incense. Now we're going to go one level more subtle. The energy body, the prana maya kosha. Sometimes you may have energy buzzing through your body. It could be uncomfortable or pleasurable. Sometimes if you're sick, you just, oh, no energy at all, no strength. You go work out, oh, so full of energy. Maybe you've studied a martial arts. Anybody here studied a martial arts? You're familiar with the chi or the ki, like Aikido or Tai Chi Chuan. Chi is just the Chinese word for the same thing as prana. But whatever the energy's doing, I know the energy. I am not the energy. I'm the knower of the energy. Neti, not this, not this. Now let's go one level more subtle to the mental sheath, manomaya kosha. Sometimes I feel joy, sometimes I feel sorrow, sometimes I feel lonely, sometimes I feel I'm in love, sometimes I'm terribly attached, sometimes I'm just bored. Yeah, this whole range of feelings, like an artist with a palette of colors. But whatever it is that's going on, I know the feelings. I am not my feelings. I'm the knower of my feelings. Betty, not this, not this. Now let's go one level even more subtle. The Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellectual sheath. Sometimes we call it Buddhi, the intellect. It's the place where thought happens. In your head, do the problem 2 + 2. Remember what you had for lunch. Visualize a strawberry. That place is called your intellect. But the thoughts go by like your hand in front of your face. Or you can say, like the sound of the traffic. I watch the thoughts go by. I am not my thoughts. I'm the knower of my thoughts. So see if you can get your mind really still. And with the attention introverted, see if you can notice who sees the thoughts and even the space, the silence between the thoughts. Now it's tricky because it's like trying to look at your eyes. It's like trying to taste your tongue. It's like trying to shine a flashlight on its own batteries. Yet, you know you are. The scriptures do not define this, they at best point. One of my favorites is Chid Akasha, the space, Akasha, of pure awareness. So in this verse, in the secret language of mystic symbolism, Lord Krishna indicates the self, how it is different from the equipment. So let's parse these ideas. So the first ones again tonight, weapons.
Yeah, the self cannot be cut.
Yes. You can only cut stuff in the world of name and form. You can cut the body. The self is like space, can't be cut. Next idea.
Nor burnt.
Stick your hand in fire, you can burn your hand. Fire does not touch the knower of the burnt hand. Next idea.
Nor moistened.
So here, if you get rained on, the rain only rains on your body. It does not touch you. This is all poetry. What it means is all the various physical experiences that we can go through, the whole range of them, only affect the equipment. They don't affect the self. Next idea.
Nor dried.
Same idea going on.
It is eternal.
Yes. So I think he's using the word here nityam, is he not?
Nityam.
Later on, he's going to use Puranam or Sanatana when he talks about it being ancient.
Sanatan.
So eternal here means that it's always there. When I was a child and I had the life experiences of a child, who knew it? I did it. Maybe you went to school, some of us to college. Who knew those experiences? I did. Maybe you've come from another country. India, where are you from, Jose?
Spain.
Spain. So Spain, you come to the United States, Santosh. Where were you from?
India.
India, yeah. That was one world that you knew. Then you come here, you know a different world, but something has stayed the same. I know the environments, the relationships, the feelings, the thoughts, the experiences. That's eternal. Doesn't change. Don't believe me. We want to take these as hypotheses. Be a spiritual scientist. Stop. Have this radical introversion of the attentive faculty. Notice the knower. See if there's anything in there. It's always just empty like the sky. Next idea.
All pervading.
Yes. So whatever experience I have, my awareness is there to illuminate it. Pervades every experience. If I've got a pain in my knee, something very physical, I'm aware of that. If I have an emotion, I am aware of that. If I have a subtle thought, I am aware of that. So whatever level of existence I inhabit, shall we say, self is there illuminating it. Next idea.
Stable.
Yes, sthita, I think is what he said, didn't he?
Sthano.
Yeah, same root, statishtati. Meaning, the self does not move. Stable. Oh, Jim, that really threw me off center. Well, what really happened? I got triggered. Feelings went here or there, but the consciousness always illumines it. It is not touched. Still, like a mountain. Next idea.
Immovable.
Things move in it. It does not move. It's always the same. Always just witnessing awareness. Next idea.
Ancient.
Yes. Did he use Sanatanam, I think?
Yes.
Yes. So it not only is eternal in the now, but however back I can remember. Who here's had an incarnation memory of a previous incarnation? Who knew it? Even if you remember, oh, I was a dinosaur 65 million years ago. Who knew it? I did. Whether anything you illumine in time and space, the self is a changeless reality. So what we need to do is continue to discriminate. And when the mind identifies with the not self, do our best to let that go. Let's see if I can use a worldly, gross example. True story. So my grandmother, we called her Gaki, was a twin. And her twin sister, they had a lot of money. This is before the crash of 29. She married a fellow who invested all her money on the stock market. And when the crash of 29 happened, he was so ashamed that he lost his wife's money, he jumped out of the window of a skyscraper and killed himself. Why? Because he was so identified. I'm a good provider. I'm a good stock market person. I'm investing my wife's money. He could not handle what he thought was shame. And it was intolerable. That's crazy. But you and I perhaps do much of the same thing, just not on such an extreme basis. I think I'm my behavior. I think I'm my thoughts. I think I'm my feelings. Here Krishna says, no. Swamiji used to say, shut up and get out. Be quiet in the mind. Get out of the mind. Be ever the witness of all the sensations in the body, all the feelings, all the thoughts. Even this chit-chaya, this shadow self, the phony self, the ego. You watch it rise, you watch it fall. It's not are these ideas new for you, Jose?
I have read about them before.
We have to see the difference between what we call paroksha jnanam, indirect knowledge, and aparoksha jnanam, direct knowledge. So where people get into trouble, and it doesn't do any good to free us, is when I start talking about the self as if it's out there. Like we're going to talk about the subjunctive in Spanish, or I'm going to talk about politics. I want to talk about a philosophical idea. That does nothing to free us. We must start with our direct experience. Who sees the water glass? I do. That's yourself. What we do is we take a meditation verse like this, in quiet mind, attentive faculty turn inward, see whether or not it's true of you. Any other thoughts? Questions? We'll do that later. Next verse.
Avyakto ayam chintyo
Oh, I love this.
yamavikaryo yamuchyate tasmadevam viditvenam nanushochitu maharsi.
Avyaktaha, unmanifest.
This self is said to be unmanifest, unthinkable, and unchangeable. Therefore, knowing this to be such, you should not grieve.
Yes. So things, gross and subtle, come into manifestation. Everything, gross and subtle, goes through this process. First, there's a period of prior non-existence. Then they come into existence. Then they have subsequent non-existence. I bought these glasses about 10 years ago. Before they were made, prior non-existence. They were made in some glass factory. They go into existence. I think Fang remembers when I had the tall one. I used to have 6 of them. Broke them. Subsequent non-existence. If you meditate, you will see a thought arise, prior non-existence. It will exist, and then it will fade away, subsequent non-existence. It comes out of nothingness, it is manifest and disappears. But you never come into material existence. Doesn't mean you don't exist, but you are never existent like an object. Why is this important? I've had students who will do ayahuasca or drop LSD or do ecstasy or go on a meditation retreat and say, oh, I had an experience of ultimate reality. Oh, I was merged with everyone. Oh, but it passed and I'm trying to get back there. Sound familiar to any of you? Whatever it is you experienced, it wasn't what was real. If you see yourself, the self, what you see is you are always here. Oh, Jim, I dropped acid and I saw the self. Okay. What state of mind were you in before you did that? Oh, I was just a little nervous. Who was aware of it? I was. When you took the LSD, what happened? Oh, everything just turned into vibration. I touched the wall and my hand melted with it. I was on the toilet and the toilet paper was breathing. Who was aware of that? Oh, I was. Then what happened? Oh, it came down. And who's aware of the conversation you're having with me? I am. What is that eternal factor? What is it that's always there? That's not a mind state. When you quieten the mind, have this reversal of the attentive faculty, notice the knower. Do you see anything there? Yet that no thingness shines as the light of pure awareness. But you will never see the self go by as if it were a created or manifested thing. It's not an experience that comes and goes. It's not a mind state. It's yourself. We don't achieve the self. We don't merge with the self. We don't become the self. We don't see the self. Scriptures are very clear. We realize in the subtle intellect what we've always been, what we've always had. Anybody ever had this experience? You're getting ready to leave the house and you're looking for your keys. I've lost my keys. Look where you normally keep them, on your dresser or on the dining room table. Go through your jackets. Where did I put my keys? I'm going to be late for work. I've got to find my keys. And then oh, there they are in my pocket. Did you lose your keys? No. They were always with you. So also, when are you ever not you? My problem is not the lack of I-ing, the lack of selfing. My problem is, the technical term is adhyasa. I superimpose onto that the qualities of the not self. The root one is, I think, that's the root of it all. Here, Krishna is saying the self is not anything that is manifest.
Oh, está bien. Bueno, yo también.
Whoever's online who's having a conversation, maybe you please mute. All right, next idea. Avyakta, unmanifest, next one.
Unthinkable.
Achintyam, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So it's not figure outable. Some of us think if I just read enough spiritual books, if I just watch enough YouTube videos, and then people say, well, is it like a lake and there's drops? Is it like a fire and there's sparks? I keep wanting to come up with some image. I want to figure it out. I want to nail it down. What we need to practice is unknowing. Stop. Later on in this chapter, Krishna is going to say, he who knows it not. She who knows it not knows it. Meaning when we have let go of the mind, and that pure nature of I is so clear, it's so evident. It's not data. It's not information. Next idea.
Unchangeable.
Most of us, if we're honest, live in a state of fear. Now, I don't mean terror, but fear, annoyance, anxiety, need to control, all that are just forms of fear. The root of fear is I think I need to protect or secure myself. And yourself is always secure. It's unchanging, undying, undecaying. Always there. Don't believe me. In a quiet mind, once we get intimations of this in our meditation seat, then through the day, when I see forms of fear arise, stop, look within. Whatever catastrophe that I think might be coming down, is it going to touch? Drop it. Drop it. Next idea.
Therefore, you should not grieve.
Yes. So remember, we're going back to the 11th verse. You grieve for whom you should not grieve, though you speak words of wisdom. The wise grieve neither for the living nor the dead. This is why. It's all going to work out. Even dying is perfectly safe. Getting there can be stressful for people in ignorance. Nobody fails at dying. So funny. When I was a working musician, one of my jobs was to counsel people for funerals for their loved one. What kind of music do you want, etc., etc., etc. And so many people were focused on, oh, Aunt Mary wouldn't have liked this. She would have liked that. Well, we want to do what Aunt Mary wanted. I don't realize Aunt Mary doesn't care. She's dead. It's only for the living. But even in the circumstances of our life, if you lose a job, you lose a relationship, you lose a house, you lose your bank account, you are absolutely safe. Because none of it touches. You can't be improved. You can't be diminished. Next idea.
That's it.
Next verse.
Atha chainam nityajatam nityam vamanase vritam tathapi tvam baho naivam shochitum arhasi. But even if you think of him as being constantly born and constantly dying, even then, O mighty armed, you should not grieve.
So remember, we talked about what I call spiritual anthropology. What is the grossest part of our equipment? The stula sharira, this gross body, the meat lump. What is its destiny? What is its nature? It is born, it grows up, it gets sick, it dies. Nobody gets out alive. I have news for every single one of you here. You're dying. Only thing that is a mystery is when. Then the sukshma sharira, the subtle body. Also the antakarana, the inner equipment. The jiva, the transmigrating soul. That's the body you run around in a dream. It is this inner equipment, the jiva, the subtle body, that leaves the physical body, goes to a loka of some sort. Loka means like a particular vibrational state, works out some of the karmas, and then impelled by its desires, it takes birth in another physical body. Now, you don't need to believe in the doctrine of reincarnation. Yoga teaches it. You can just use it as metaphor for one life. So for example, Jose, when did you leave Spain? How long ago?
22 years ago.
Okay, so you could say Spain was an incarnation, and then you had another incarnation in the United States. People were different, language is different, where you live is different. So you could see reincarnation as simply a metaphor in that way. What the scriptures do teach is, in fact, when the body dies, even the subtle body moves from incarnation to incarnation. So if you cannot apprehend the true self, then even just in terms of the subtle body, don't grieve. I don't know where Aunt Mary is, but if she didn't realize the self, she's coming back. And that's the destiny of the human soul. We continue to move from experience to experience until we grasp the reality of who we are. Then the cause for reincarnation is removed. In Christianity, we posit an eternal personality that goes to heaven. You know, streets are paved with gold, and you're going to see Aunt Mary and Uncle Bill, etc. In Hinduism, moksha, or liberation, is freedom from birth. Freedom from birth. So here Krishna is saying, if you cannot apprehend your self-nature, you still shouldn't grieve. It's all going to work out. Certain is death for the born, certain is birth for the dead. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Jatsya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mrityasa cha tasmadi pariharya arthe nantavam shochituma aharsi. Indeed, certain is death for the born and certain is birth for the dead. Therefore, over the inevitable, you should not grieve.
He was reading my mind.
Mhm.
Now, here, it doesn't just mean of the physical body. Certain is death, meaning the end of every experience, every relationship, everything. They are by definition finite. The only constant in the world of name and form is change. Or whatever forms are in your life, physical, situational, emotional, or ideas, they will change. And new ones will come. Certain is death for the born, stuff that comes into existence. And certainly is birth for the dead. And things come into existence after the destruction of the old. It's funny, we have the trinity of the gods in India, Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, Shiva, the destroyer, lots of Shiva temples, lots of Vishnu temples. To my knowledge, there's only one temple to Lord Brahma in India. Why do you think that is? Why is he not worshipped and propitiated?
There's a legend about how he lied. Well, I mean, this is one of the many stories that go around. But there's a legend about how Shiva and Brahma had a competition about who is greater. And
That's all mythology. What
yeah.
the practical reason is, none of us have any problems coming up with thinking. We have difficulty perhaps sustaining an idea, sustaining a particular habit, sustaining a particular project. Destruction, you can worship that. But Brahma, the creator, needs no propitiation, constantly at work.
But creating anything original is hard.
Or is there anything original? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's true.
In a sense, Hinduism says it's all been done.
Yes.
There's been the old crow Bushunda, who's in Yoga Vasishta, who in between the yugas, he goes up into some loka and then comes back. So he's seen something like 15 Krishnas and 9 Vasishtas, and it's all just circular, going over and over.
Yes.
The myth of originality. Artful synthesis. That's all it is. Something new.
Feels new.
Pardon me?
Feels new.
That's because we forget. I have a dear friend whose mother is in a memory unit in a place called Kaleo Bay. And the motto was, every day is a new day at Kaleo Bay. She can't remember what happened last week. Can't remember people. We just aren't quite there yet, but close. The trauma of death. I mean, what is the date today? The 19th? Is that right? February 19th, 2023. What were you doing 10 years ago? February 19th, 2013. No
Getting out of Kumila.
idea. All right, next verse.
Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktam dhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra kaparidevana. Beings unmanifest in the beginning and unmanifest again in their end seem to be manifest in the middle, O Bharata. What then is there to grieve about?
Yes. So he's been reading my mind. I just talked about that. Everything gross and subtle has prior non-existence. Avyaktaha, unmanifest. It seems to come into manifestation. Yaktaha. And then it goes out of manifestation. My thoughts, my feelings, my experiences, sensations. Now, what is the value of this teaching? Certain experiences in our lives feel like it's going to be this way forever. I think that's what drives people to suicide. I was just listening to the news about this young teenager who was bullied at school. She went home and killed herself. I think she was like 14. Why? When you're 14 and you feel so awful and you're tormented, it feels like it's going to be that way forever. But some of you have done long-term meditation retreats. I'm talking about, say, a week, 10 days or longer. Who's done any of those? So what does it show you about various mind states? They go away. They arise, they exist, they go away. Sensations in the body. What does it say about those?
Change and they go away.
Yes. Unmanifest. Yaktaha. No, unmanifest of Yaktaha. Manifest. Yaktaha. Subsequent of Yaktaha. So we are invited to meditate on the fundamental impermanence of everything. All relationships end in death or divorce. All. Every job will end. Unless you get hit by a bus first. Everything is temporary. What does that mean? Cherish it, but don't be attached. I was in San Francisco today. A beautiful spring-like day in San Francisco. Ah, we live in the Bay Area. Days like today, just gorgeous. But you know what's going to happen? What happens in July when all your friends and relatives want to visit San Francisco in July and they bring shorts and a Hawaiian shirt?
True freeze.
Yeah. Where's the beautiful weather? Impermanent. Beautiful sunset, cherish it. Impermanent. Anybody here married? Tell me the relationship is the same as it was in the first year of love. Doesn't mean you don't continue to cherish the person, but it changes, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Everything changes. Why grieve over the inevitable? So the flip side of way to talk about this is what we call radical, perpetual acceptance of life on life's terms. This is the way it is now. Wishing it were different only makes me suffer more. Doesn't mean we don't take action to make changes if we can. One of the things we find is, oh, we're not nearly as powerful as we think we are. Especially over other people. Don't worry if you're having a tough day. I promise you, it will change. Many of you hear me say, oh, Jim, I'm so upset. I said, don't worry, dear. It will pass. And somebody comes in, oh, Jim, I feel so wonderful. I hit all the green lights. It was such a beautiful day. I feel so peaceful. Don't worry, it will pass. Everything passes except you. You do not pass. You are the eternal fact. All right, next verse. What number are we on, by the way?
29.
29.
आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवचैन्यमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनः वेद न चैव कश्यति. One sees this as a wonder, another speaks of this as a wonder, another hears of this as a wonder. Yet, having heard none, understands this at all.
Yes. So, why is it that living in this knowledge? Are you okay?
I had to head out early to catch the train. Sorry, Jim.
All right. Try not to unplug lights.
Will do.
Maybe if you'll sneak out through the bedroom. Yeah. All right. So, we hear this truth, maybe over and over and over again, but it seems hard to live from this truth. Why? Who has an answer? There's a price for steady wisdom. Let's go and talk about one of the classic images, metaphors that we get in this work, the snake and the rope. So, a story. There's a king, and he has a marble palace, and he has a bad habit. He drinks a little bit too much, smokes a little bit too much dope. He's fat too. So he has his servants draw him a bath, and it's evening, and he's a little loaded. So he just sinks down into the tub. Of course, the water overflows onto the marble floor of the palace. No big deal. And when he's finished with his bath, he gets up and he steps out of the tub, and he steps on a wet piece of rope. And he freaks out. He goes, "Oh my God, a serpent, a snake." And he says to the ministers and the servants around, "Don't come any closer. I'm dead. We don't want you to die." Servants, they look at one another. "Your Majesty, it's not a snake. You stepped on a wet rope." Sarparaju, the snake in the rope. Why is this used so frequently? First of all, where was the snake? Was it on the ground? Yes? No?
No.
Where was it?
In his head.
Yeah. What was on the ground? Yeah. So when he looked down and investigated, what seemed like a snake is seen to be a rope. This is called adhyasa, superimposition. That's the problem. But as long as he's believing in the reality of the snake, he's going to continue to have fear. How did he get rid of the snake? Did he call a snake catcher? What did the servants tell him to do? Look. Yes. Investigate. But he had to be willing to give up his imagined belief in the snake. So you and I are firmly convinced in the reality of a snake called my ego, my personal sense of self. I'm Jim. And the world out there is joy giving and misery producing, and this is serious business and it's real. The guru, the scriptures say, no. Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is illusory. Raju Satyam Sarva Nitya. The rope alone is real. The snake is an illusion. Brahma Satyam. Consciousness, the self alone is real. phenomenal world is mithya. It's illusory. Mithya literally means lie. Fake news. But just like the king, he must give up his belief in the reality of the snake in order for his investigation in the rope to be efficacious. If the minister says, Your Majesty, there's no snake there, you stepped on a wet rope. And he goes, No, 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 I can't look, I'm too scared. It's a snake, it's gonna bite me at any minute. No, Your Majesty, there's no snake there, it's just a rope. No, 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 no. He can't be freed. You and I am an abused child. I am lonely. I am a piece of poop. I am a failure, or the opposite. I am the best of everything. I am so successful. Nobody knows how great I am until I get smacked. All of that is an illusion. And we cannot see the substrate unless we have the courage to be willing to give up our attachment. This is hard teaching. Everything you've held as sacred, as valuable in the world, we have to let go of. Everything you thought about yourself, I'm this kind of person, I'm not that kind of person. All of it has to go. What are you left with? Nothing. Literally. Then you see who you are. Self-realization is not difficult. Krishna later on will say easy to perform, but it's very rare. And it's rare because nobody wants it.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were talking about attachment, giving up of all attachments, all ideas. I have a hard time thinking of fear as an attachment, and I find that that is a primal sort of a force.
Say again. You have a
I
hard
have
time.
I have a hard time thinking of fear as an attachment, but fear also has to be given up, right?
Fear has to be given up. Most of the time, what we're afraid of is something unreal. Now, if you're crossing the street and you hear a screeching tire, that's fine. For now, you can have that. But that's not the kind of fear that usually afflicts us. It's fear of what other people think. It's fear of what's going to happen. It's fear in the future of some circumstance. It's always usually attached to, am I going to be okay? There's a slogan that I love, and it goes like this: I'm frightened because I see a meaningless universe. I see a meaningless universe because I'm in competition with God. I think God's an underachiever. He may be omnipotent, but he's obviously not doing it my way. I think it should be different. That's why I'm frightened. I think I'm not going to be okay. The world's not going to be okay. I'm going to fall into an abyss. And that has to be given up. Sometimes people say fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. Better you should do face everything and realize. Now, the kind of physiological fear, if a car is screeching or something like that, for now, that's okay. But that's not what usually afflicts us on a day-to-day basis. Does
Yes,
that
it's
make sense?
yes. Yeah, yeah.
If you go into work and you're afraid of what the university administration is going to do, or a crazy power-hungry dean, I'm a
Actually,
retired
what I had in mind was more related to fears that, children experience. Like recently, we came across a colleague whose child is sort of really screaming loudly, and the parents are actually beating the child, that sort of a thing. So I was
Yeah,
just last evening, I was talking about how this child is unlikely to ever get over this fear.
that's not true. That's not true. I know many people who have come from abusive homes who are able to work through it.
Yes,
But
I think that's the thing to
they're going to be
remember.
very damaged, probably. And yes, 5 and 6-year-olds are not yogis, dear.
Yes.
They're subjective, sensitive children. They are victims. But the problem for you and me is we're adults and we're still hanging on to those things.
Yes.
In this country, would probably report them to Child Protective Services.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can do in India.
I mean, yeah, we have already, various people have complained, but anyway, I think that's probably going off topic too much.
Yeah. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. We need to quit. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari